Alright, this is a video I'm just going to do real quick for several family and friends have asked me, based on my experience, kind of what should and shouldn't go into sort of a survival-ish type bag. Not really a bug-out bag per se, but I have a pretty detailed write-up of all of the stuff that I have here and why and where you can get it, things like that. But basically, hopefully this is only going to be seen by a few people, Jeremy, Bridget, a couple other people. Anyway, so the idea here being that so there's really two scenarios that I'm going to refer to when I talk about each item. And the idea here is to be thrifty and basically put together a pack or a couple of packs that are not horribly expensive, but reasonable to get you through at least the basics of getting you through what I consider what I call a likely scenario, or I guess likely is not a good word, what I call a realistic scenario, which would be either a pandemic outbreak, flu, what have you, or just civil unrest because of a variety of different things, natural disaster, whatever. And this is the idea here is to generate something that will, you start off in sort of an urban or rural environment and either stay there in place and do what you need to do for just a few weeks, because realistically, if something goes down like that, civil unrest, whatever, you really don't have to worry, I don't think, long term. So that's not what this purpose is. So this is just to get you by for a few weeks, starting in the rural or urban environment, potentially transitioning to a camping sort of wilderness environment, which that's the other side of this, is you don't want to just spend a bunch of money on crap you're never going to use, because it is unlikely, although more realistic than the other scenarios. Of course, the other scenarios being, total collapse of local government, stuff like that, which, first off, zombies not going to happen. Let's be realistic here. So the realistic scenario I've already discussed is sort of the less likely scenario. Less realistic is what I really mean, but I'll probably refer to that being a long-term collapse of civil order and or lack of law enforcement, which I can't really see anything right now that would really lean to that. But anyway, this kind of gets us started. So first, I'm going to make a separate video for firearms and whatnot, but just as an idea, so first, got the standard 1911, well, not standard, the 380 Bursa Combat. Then, of course, my personal favorite, the Gen 22, Glock 22 Gen 4, with a little bit of extra stuff on it. One thing that's particularly potentially useful in a home defense situation is is actually not so much a laser but a strobe, and the strobe alternates to certain wavelengths. It's actually pretty nice. Oh, and I should preface this with, in case people beyond the people I intend to see this video, which I hope not, but I should preface this with, I'm not going to go into my background because, again, this is oriented towards people who know me, but just in case, the views and opinions I'm about to show and or say represent my own and do not represent the views and or opinions or anything related to the Department of Defense or the U.S. Army or the federal government. So anyway, and again, this is just my sort of, I keep all my weapons and ammunition stored completely separately, so with a couple of exceptions, but of course, so those are sort of the handgun options. And then of course we've got this will be my AR-15, which is pretty standard, pretty basic, not too bad. It's a SIG. This is actually a SIG 516 Patrol, which is a 5.56 standard NATO round. And the only other thing that I can really endorse as far as having, and again, this I should state that what I'm about to show you, for the most part, with the exception of a few items, are sort of the budget version But a couple of things that I consider absolutely critical, and I'll mention those. I have to go up and pony up for brand name stuff just to make sure we have good quality. But then this is the other sort of option here. So this is a say Remington 870 Tactical, and again, you know, that's just a basic introduction to say you should have something. Of course, what you would actually take and what you would have really depends a lot on the situation and what ends up happening, which is why it's nice to have them all ready, but you definitely don't store, I don't store weapons with ammunition. So anyway, to get started, we're going to focus on some things that are sort of generic, can be used for camping, as well as a variety of other things, not just for your bug out bag. I should mention, to begin with, the actual bag itself. So a variety of different ones will work. This is a High Sierra 90. This is a long trail pack, so it's hard to see in the video here, but it's an internal frame pack. One thing you want to make sure you've got is your adjustable shoulder straps. And these ones actually adjust in a variety of different ways. They have this ergo fit, which is actually really nice. You can adjust the height of the internal frame on your back. And you definitely want to make sure you've got a nice padded hip belt there, because that's where the weight should really lies, on your hips. I have a variety of other bags that I'm not going to go into because they're pretty standard tactical, just, you know, backpacks and whatnot. But anyway, I'll go into the tactical stuff in a separate video. But anyway, so to get started, obviously, and a lot of these I'm not going to tell you necessarily brand names or model numbers because it's not really important. The features are important, but the brand isn't necessarily important. Sort of the whole idea that I'm going to get across with a lot of these is assumptions are lack of or not safe water and lack of or very little electricity. So to start with, these are some Motorola walkie-talkies. They're 27-mile, you know, quote unquote. Realistically, probably closer to in the city here. I've actually had one in my car and one in somebody else's car, and I've actually gotten these to communicate up to about 3 miles away, which is not bad considering it's an active urban environment with everything else interfering. And I really didn't get any interference with, you know, up to the distance they would communicate. It was a very quick drop-off. It was very nice, very clear and concise, and then just bam, nothing. So there wasn't a lot of interference and no issues with that. Lots of different channels and whatnot, but the key to this one is, you know, silence is a factor. So this has got a headset with headset microphone combo intake there. It does use a rechargeable battery pack, which is what you've got here, which is a basic DC 9-volt in, which is a pretty common variety. One of the keys here is it also can be charged, which may be hard to see here, but it can also be charged. That's an old school micro USB port. You can, I've got several of those I had sitting in the drawer that, you know, they're not the standard micro USB, but they still work. And then this is basically, you know, push to talk. It's kind of neat. It's got a little flashlight in it. Nothing that you need, but yeah. So it's actually got an emergency. This button up top. Actually, I was wrong. This is the Bluetooth or the headset in microphone and headset. It's because it's got. It's not just a headset. It's for microphone. It's for combos. So anyway, sorry. This video is. I can tell you right now, it's going to drag on because I'm not very good at being concise and remembering everything, all the reasons I bought this. Again, I have a write-up that I can send you, but to show you the items is probably a little more helpful. Anyway, that's just an emergency button that'll actually flag all the different frequencies immediately, including one emergency band, local or national emergency band. So anyway, walkie-talkies. One of the keys to this is charging station as well as micro USB. And the reason for that is, again, power. That's a key component here. So batteries are always a good. I don't like rechargeable AA's, AAA's, things like that, because first you got to find a place to charge them, and if I've got that, I can plug